Configuring Springdoc and Swagger-UI with Spring 6, non-Spring Boot, and custom context paths. Introduction. Integrating Swagger-UI with Springdoc in a non-Spring Boot Spring 6 application can be tricky, especially when your API uses a custom context path and servlet path. A common issue is that Swagger-UI tries to fetch API docs from an incorrect URL, leading to 404 errors. This guide explains how to correctly configure Swagger-UI and Springdoc to work seamlessly with custom context and servlet paths. The problem. Your API is exposed under /context path /API. You can access Swagger-UI at /context path /API /swagger-UI index.html. However, Swagger-UI attempts to load API docs from /context path /v3 /API docs /swagger-config, missing the /API, which does not exist. Accessing /context path /API /v3 /API docs /swagger-config shows correct config URLs. This mismatch causes Swagger-UI to fail loading API metadata properly. Common misconfigurations. In application.properties or springdoc.config.properties, you might try setting But these settings alone don't fix the problem because Swagger-UI still tries to load config from the wrong base URL. Solution overview. Ensure springdoc.apidocs.path matches your API base. Set springdoc.apidocs.path equals /API/v3 /API docs relative to the context path. Let the context path be managed by your server or servlet container. Use server.servlet.context path equals /context path if supported. Customize Swagger-UI initialization. Copy the Swagger-UI static files into your application's web app folder to customize SwaggerInitializer.js. Modify SwaggerInitializer.js to explicitly set the URL or config URL to include both /context path and /API. Java configuration adjustments. Define the OpenAPI servers correctly with full URLs reflecting your context path and servlet path. Ensure Spring MVC or servlet configurations align. Correctly set spring.mvc.servlet.path to /API and server.servlet.context path to /context path. Avoid conflicting or redundant component scans. Why customize SwaggerInitializer.js? By default, Swagger-UI assumes the API docs are under /v3 /API docs relative to its own URL. But if your context involves multiple path segments, /context path /API, Swagger-UI must be explicitly told where to find the docs. Copying SwaggerInitializer.js into your app allows you to override the URL or config URL property in the Swagger-UI initialization script. Point Swagger-UI exactly to /context path /API /v3 /API docs /swagger-config. This step resolves the problem where Swagger-UI tries to reach /context path /v3 /API docs /swagger-config incorrectly. Summary. Configure springdoc.apidocs.path relative to your servlet path. Use server.servlet.context path for global context path management. Provide accurate servers configuration in your OpenAPI bean. Customize Swagger-UI initializer to point to the correct API docs URL. This approach guarantees that Swagger-UI loads the API docs correctly even when using custom context paths and not using Spring Boot. Adopting these best practices will save significant debugging time and enable a smooth development experience with Spring 6 and Springdoc.